I want to take a point here to explain what I mean by love in politics, because a lot of people can misunderstand this. And this can come off as a very woo-woo hippie type of ideal that's impractical in the real world. It's like, Leo, love doesn't actually do anything in the real world. You can't actually solve real problems with this love stuff. It's just abstractions. That's not true at all. Love is the most powerful force. The problem is that most people who are engaged in politics have no idea what love is. They haven't had deep, mystical experiences of universal, cosmic love. And so most people treat love as some romantic thing, some sentimental, sappy thing. That's not at all what I'm talking about. So what does love mean in the context of politics? It means that you have a wide concern for all living beings. It means that you appreciate the value and worth of all living beings, not as just some sort of instrumental value or utilitarian value to you, like, well, how can I manipulate that person to get what I want? Not in this way. In fact, that's the whole problem with politics, is that it's so manipulative. But rather, you understand that there's some deeper force within the universe which is guiding evolution and which is guiding all human action and the unfoldment of physical reality. Now, the problem with this is that when I say this to people who have not accessed mystical states of consciousness where you do tap into infinite love, to these people, this is such a foreign notion. All they understand as far as love is, they get horny and they want to have sex, and that's their notion of love. Or maybe their notion of love includes their children or their spouse or something like that, or their parents. That's good, but now imagine that we expand your sense of love that you have for your family to the entire universe. That's what I'm talking about. And you really do need to have these mystical experiences of universal love, because otherwise it doesn't work just as an idea. It needs to move you. It needs to transform you. When you have these experiences, these are transformative experiences which change your whole relationship to reality. So it's important, if you want to do conscious politics, that you actually access those higher realms of love and that they transform you so that then you understand. Right now, you don't really understand. Well, at least start by understanding that you don't understand it, that you have more to discover. Mystics throughout human history, the Buddha, Christ, Mahavira, and many others, sages and mystics, have talked about these higher realms of mystical cosmic love. The Sufi poet Rumi, mystic and poet, his whole teaching was about this love. The whole Sufi way is about this love. Christ is about this love. The problem is that we have a bunch of Christians these days, especially in America here, evangelicals and Catholics and so forth. But their politics is very unconscious, because even though they might go to church and listen to some sermon about Jesus' love, they don't actually embody that in their own life, because their love is only confined to their personal family and to their tribe. Maybe at best to some patriotic ideal of America, but even that patriotic ideal excludes black people, excludes gay people, excludes, a bunch of other things. Doesn't include Middle Eastern people, doesn't include Muslim people. This is not true love. I mean, it is love, but it's a very limited form of love. And also, it's important here to say that conscious politics is about maximizing love and consciousness, as opposed to, for example, creating a better economy. A lot of politicians these days, they act as though all that government is for is to maximize the economy. That is not what government is really about. That's to put the cart before the horse. Sure, of course we need government to improve the economy, but why? Why? You might say, well, to feed my children. Yes, but why? Why feed your children? You have to understand that all of it ultimately comes back to love. It's because you love your children that you need to feed them. And it's because you love your company that you want to skew the policy to favor your company, that you want subsidies for your company or some sort of favors for your company. See? It's all love. And in fact, conscious politics means understanding that all political action is done out of love. And this is something that people have a really hard time understanding because it's quite twisted. So what I'm saying is that literally all political action that has ever happened in the history of mankind has been out of love, including the Holocaust, including the dropping of nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, including World War II and World War I, and all the way back, all the war, all the slavery, all the violence, all of it, all the oppression was all done out of love. It's just a question of how expansive is the love or how contracted and dense is the love. And if you're practicing conscious politics, you have to see this. Because otherwise what's going to happen is that you're going to demonize all those other people out there who are doing things. You're going to demonize your opponents. You're not actually going to be able to love them. To be able to love your opponents and love all people, to have this universal sense of love that I'm talking about, what needs to happen is that you need to literally see the entire universe as this giant love fractal, which is unfolding itself in a multitude of different ways, sometimes in very twisted ways, including war and ethnic cleansing and all this sorts of stuff. And all of it is ultimately happening due to love. But because people are ignorant and their love is so contracted and so limited that oftentimes what they do, for example, terrorists, they will commit terrorist acts, but they're doing it. Why? Because of love. Because they love their family, they love their country, they love Islam, whatever, and they want to defend it. You see, when you're defending something, when you're clinging to something, that is love. It's just a limited form of love, a contracted form of love. And someone who's practicing conscious politics understands this, and this is what allows him or her to overcome hatred and demonization of others. There is an understanding, a very deep understanding of the ignorance of other people, where you actually empathize with it because you realize that, hey, I too act ignorant sometimes, and in the past, I too have been extremely ignorant, and I understand how difficult it is to overcome ignorance, and I understand how difficult it is to have universal love and to embody universal love. You know, this is not easy to do at all times. Maybe it's easy when you're on some psychedelic trip, but it's not easy in the real world when you have to deal with, especially people within political situations where there are tough choices and decisions to make. It's not easy at all. And oftentimes love is very twisted and it can actually hurt us. And we're afraid to fully love. And so it's important to appreciate that, and that even if you have conquered all these obstacles and you've become some Buddha, that doesn't mean that the rest of your neighbors have. So you need to appreciate their ignorance, their fears about being loving, their inability to see love in the way that you are able to. And so therefore, that makes you want to help them to understand. And then that's what politics becomes about.